Hello and welcome to Leedshacks News. I'm Elisa Lita.
And I'm Jacob Lyon, and here are today's headlines. Strike action hits the University of Leeds as lecturers fight for their pensions. Time's running out for this near-derelict Pudsey chapel. And residents in Hyde Park facing unwanted guests.
But first, there were dramatic scenes in the centre of Leeds today as police closed streets and evacuated buildings. A suspect package was the cause of the action. It was found on Queen Street and the bomb squad sealed off nearby streets as a precaution. Residents and workers were also evacuated from neighbouring offices. The road closures have led to traffic disruption in the city centre.
Students had their seminars and lectures disrupted today at the University of Leeds as University and College Union members went out on strike.
This is the second time industrial action has taken place this academic year. As Lauren West reports, this action isn't just confined to Leeds.
Today, Leeds University staff joined 73 other universities in striking against pension, pay and casualisation. This is the second strike in one academic year, as the UCU striked in November and December last year.
So we're on strike, we've got 14 days of strike, and we're hoping that the employers will come back to negotiate about these things. For the other things, what we're looking for is more of a pay rise, but also, very importantly, a sort of national framework for sorting out casualisation, workloads and inequality so that universities can be held to it. They're very good at saying fine waffly words, but they're not so good at actually doing stuff, and we want to have some sort of agreement that makes them actually do something about these problems.
It needs to be done because I'm sure if the students, when they're old and they get jobs, they've got a degree and they're not being paid enough, it's completely fair, and I support them wholeheartedly.
It affects all of us. It's one fight, it's one battle, and it can only be won if we all kind of unite. I hope that negotiations go somewhere and that the board and the university decide that this is a serious battle and that people aren't going to stop until they get what they need to.
This is Lauren West reporting for Leedshacks News.
Leeds residents can find out how the fashion industry has changed in Leeds over the years with the new Fast X Slow fashion exhibition at Leeds City Museum. It features garments dating back 300 years and shows how clothes shopping has developed in Leeds, from small independent tailors to global-scale high street chains. The items on display range from retro clothing and fabric samples to vintage emblems, and an interactive map showing the central fashion store from the century. The exhibition is on until June 21st this year.
The Corn Exchange will be undergoing major redevelopments in the next few weeks as the surrounding area is pedestrianised.
But not everybody is happy with the plans. Our reporter Ben Barry has been talking to shop owners.
The Corn Exchange is facing a major development. Leeds City Council has donated £21.5 million to a construction plan to turn the surrounding streets into pedestrian zones. This is because Leeds City Council are trying to create a clean air zone around a historic building. The streets that will be affected are Newmarket Street and Crown Street. They will see zero vehicle access.
I think it's great. We're really excited. I think it's going to transform the area. There is too much traffic out there, and from a business point of view, it's going to allow us to do so much more.
I think my only concern is what it's going to look like and what it's going to sound like while it's being built, while it's going on. I'm not sure how loud the construction's going to be. I'm not sure how easy it's going to be for people to actually get into the Corn Exchange, get into the businesses around here.
I think it is an up-and-coming area, which is really what's needed, because I think it's over the last few years, quite a few years, it's been neglected. So hopefully it's going to bring a different look to the area, different kind of clientele, different customer.
This is Ben Barry reporting for Leedshacks News.
Leeds Beckett has drawn criticism for controversially imposing timeframes regarding sexual assault. According to Tortoise Media, Leeds Beckett says students must report any incident of sexual harassment, assault or abuse by a staff member within just 10 days. After this time, the allegation runs the risk of being dismissed. In response, Leeds Beckett have said each complaint is considered on an individual basis and the university take into account reasonable explanations for a delayed complaint.
Pudsey Cemetery in Chapel is under threat of being left to rot after the council suspended work because of the cost.
A group of local residents, the Friends of Pudsey Cemetery, are working hard to try and save the building and surrounding area. Philip Daniels reports.
The Friends of Pudsey Cemetery in Chapel, a group with over 600 Facebook members, are close to finalising the takeover of the property, currently owned by Leeds City Council. The building has suffered from neglect, vandalism and asbestos since it closed a decade ago.
It's been here a lot longer than we have, and it should be saved out of respect. I think it's going to cost a heck of a lot of money. There's more pigeons in there, and I've had up dinners. There is a lot to do, especially looking at the roads and everything. It's going to cost a good few grand.
Leeds City Council began works on the roof last year, but after seeing the extent of the damage decided to stop. The cemetery in Chapel can now only be saved by the community.
Right, looking at the church as it stands now, the cost it would take to rebuild and refurbish it, I think it'd be more practical and economical to pull it down and turn it into some sort of a garden of remembrance, which, you know, could still be enjoyed by the people of Pudsey and people who, you know, friends and family still buried here.
There's a divide within the community on whether the Pudsey Cemetery in Chapel should be saved, with some in favour of the restoration and others thinking it will cost more than it's worth, considering it's been closed for over 16 years. Recent weather has been bad, so let's hope Storm Dennis is kind. I'm Philip Daniels, reporting from Leedshacks News.
Rubbish is piling up all around the Hyde Park area. It's been spread across residences thanks to both Storm Dennis and Kiara. Combine this with large bins that have not been emptied for months and bins filled with holes, you get some unwanted guests. Rats. Exterminators have described the situation as an epidemic. This past month, 7 calls to deal with the rats were made, with no signs of the problem going away.
Campaigns for the student union elections are in full flow this week, with voting opening next week.
However, some of the candidates are concerned with the university not doing enough to let students have their say. Tom Mangum has more.
It's election week at Leeds Beckett University, with voting opening on the 24th of February, and candidates are fully on the campaign trail. However, there is one issue polarising the candidates, with some thinking that the university doesn't do enough to let the students have a say.
I don't think there's enough listening ears. Yeah, people may listen, but I just don't think there's enough done after the listening part. So that's what really worries me, especially as an older student. Like, I'm 31 now. I speak to a lot of people a lot younger than me that have said things and they've not been listened to, so now they feel even more like scared to speak out, and I just don't want that.
I think students should definitely have more of a say, have more to do with what goes on in the SU, and a lot of my main aims and ideas come from things that I've heard my fellow students say they want, because I want to see those student desires come into fruition in the SU.
Each of the candidates are promising to ensure that all students' voices are heard within the university, improving student experience at Leeds Beckett. The voting period will open from Monday the 24th through to Wednesday the 26th. This has been Tom Mangum reporting for Leedshacks News.
A multi-million-pound improvement project on Infirmary Street in Leeds is starting next week. Bus and cycle travel will be prioritised by converting the road into a two-way street. This is part of Connecting Leeds' scheme to reduce the number of cars in the city centre. But there are concerns that several popular bus routes will need to be altered. Connecting Leeds are holding a public forum tonight to discuss plans. The project is said to cost £8.5 million and be finished at the end of the year.
Last week, we all remember the floods in and around Yorkshire. The River Aire was particularly affected. Flooding is something we are all going to have to get used to, as climate change affects us all. But it's not just the physical destruction which is so damaging. Floodwaters have a very real impact on people.
This is not the first time, of course, that the river's been this high. In fact, it's not as high as it was in December in the Boxing Day 2015 floods. But it affects people's lives up and down the river. The river will recover, the river will continue. I think what people forget is that flooding is about people, not about property. Yes, it's not nice when your property floods, but that's recoverable.
Well, that's as far as we go tonight. Hope the traffic in Leeds has eased if you're heading home soon.
Yes, and we'll be back with more next week. But that's it from Leedshacks News. Good night.
Good night.